Okay, so today I'm going to highlight 5 advantages and 5 disadvantages to having ADHD. I'm making this video because it is ADHD Awareness Month in October, so that's why I'm making this video. So I'm going to go with the disadvantages first so I can end on a positive note. Now, these are just generally what happens. This is not all the disadvantages and all the advantages. There's more advantages and all this stuff, and so generally, people with ADHD will struggle with low self-esteem issues, um, and because of their ADHD, they think that they struggle with it. That's why, um, often people who have disorders or disabilities, um, and ADHD and everything, like anyone who has something that, makes it harder for them in school or whatever, makes them different. ADHD students and people often are bullies victims. I was bullied. I'm short. I've got the ADHD, but not many people knew that in elementary school. But yeah, and so I got bullied quite often. Well, I had a few events. It wasn't as bad as some people would say, but yeah. Anyway, often people, and this can be taken on a negative and positive note, often people with ADHD are underestimated. So people will think that you can't do something because of your ADHD when it's not true. So that can be taken as a negative and as a positive. So try and think about it as a positive and try and prove people wrong is the right response. It's a good response to that. If people think you underestimate you. We often struggle with making friends because we feel like we can't connect to anyone. And I'm speaking on behalf of ADHDers out there. So we often struggle with the social game and making friends and everything because we feel no one will understand us. So how are we going to make friends if no one understands our own struggles? We often struggle with the academics and everything, and like just basically all school subjects. So for a lot of school subjects, like the boring ones, we often struggle with, like math or English or whatever it is. That's often a struggle for people with ADHD. The advantages are stuff like we're often artistically talented. So a lot of ADHDers are really talented with art, whether that's through singing, through tech, through drawing, through painting, any kind of art, music, anything. Often people who have ADHD are very talented in that section. Often people with ADHD can tend to be more compassionate. Now, we're on the advantages, just reminding you. We're often more compassionate towards other people whom have similar disabilities or anything that, might make it harder for them to be at school. Like maybe we're compassionate to someone who is a foreign exchange student. You see that they're having troubles understanding the language, so we're more compassionate to people like that. We're compassionate to literally everyone, but we're especially compassionate to people who have disabilities or things that make it harder for them in school or whatever the scenario is. Because we all have our own struggles, so we're not going to criticize someone else. We're often not judgmental because, as I said before, we have our own struggles. So we're not going to go out and call someone out due to fear that they'll call us out on our flaws. So a lot of time we are not judgmental. We're, more compassionate, like I said before. Often people with ADHD are open to always trying new things. So that's something you can count on if you're hiring someone who you know that they have ADHD, they are always willing to try new things. Like, that's something that's kind of in our brains. We're always trying new things. We don't mind. We want to try new things. And this part here, I think of it kind of like our own superpower. We can hyper focus on an activity that we enjoy. It's kind of our superpower, as I said before. So hyper focus, like, you get really focused on one thing. For me, I tend to hyper focus a lot in the art of, like, doing drawings or sculpting or whatever it is. But a lot of, like, hands-on art pieces I can hyper focus on. Now, that can be good and bad, because sometimes people who hyper focus have a hard time to get out of that state where you're hyper focused on something. I'm pretty good at that. Like, I'm not gonna say I'm perfect, but I'm pretty good at, getting out of my hyper focused state. If I'm, focusing on doing this one craft, and my supper's ready, I'm pretty good at changing my attention. But sometimes I still struggle with the fact that I'm hyper focused on the craft and I need to eat. So yeah. So there's that. In a later video, I'm going to show you the general differences between girls with ADHD and boys with ADHD. So that will happen in a later video. This was just the advantages and disadvantages. And these are not all the disadvantages or all the advantages. There are many more. I just wanted this to be a nice short video. So yeah, like, subscribe. I did this video, I probably already said it at the beginning of the video, in support of ADHD Awareness Month. So yeah, I hope you enjoy.